Greetings to you and thanks for joining us in this other lesson. Today, we're going to talk about formatting document. Formatting documents refer to the techniques that we used to make our document look good and appealing to the eyes. After we have created our document, we edited it. And after editing, we need to arrange it using some techniques such that it should look good and appeal to the eye. We expect that you should already know how to create documents. You should already know how to move around your Microsoft Word window. You should also know your way around your word processor. We also expect that you should be able to edit the text that you have successfully entered into Microsoft Office Word. The use of the mouse is already second nature to you. If you have difficulties in using a mouse, remember to continue practicing with Solitaire. Solitaire is a very good game that will permit you to be able to master the use of the mouse. You can also practice with Zuma. Zuma is also a very good game that will permit you to master mouse movement techniques. Alright, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to arrange your document using some formatting techniques. As a quick reminder, in order to create a document, you need a word processor. An example of a word processor is Microsoft Office Word, and it is found in the Microsoft Office package as one of its applications. You can go ahead and experiment with other alternatives. Okay, without any waste of time, let's head onto our PC and see how to pull this off. Right, we are onto our PC, and this is a document which I produced already. It is opened already, and we are expecting that you should already know how to create a document. You should be able to save the document. You should be able to access the file thereafter, and you should be able to edit your file. In case you have difficulties with accessing your files after, then you want to watch our lesson on file management. Otherwise, we will move on this lesson. You can find a link to that lesson in the video description below. Okay, now on to our lesson. Ooh, look at your document. What is that? Can you read that? No, I think you cannot read. Just like I can also not read. No one can read that. And what is that even? It doesn't make sense at all. First of all, it's not readable, isn't it? You look at it, you see that you have a lot of work to do. This is an example of a document that requires some formatting. We need to arrange it using some techniques such that at the end, the document should look good and appeal to the eye. This is not looking good at all. Now, for us to format our document, there are two techniques that we are going to employ. We're going to use what we call page formatting and text formatting. We're going to format our page. Remember that when you are creating a document, you are creating it on a page. There are different page sizes. There are also, these page sizes are meant for different reasons. We also have different text types, what they call in our jargons, font type. We're going to see how we can manipulate with all of this. We can move around with all of this and have a good result at the end of the day. We're going to begin with page formatting. Page formatting refers to the techniques that we employ to make sure that our page looks good. Our page is made up of different sizes. And so before you get on with producing your document, you need to think about how this document will be used. Are you preparing it to print? If it is to print, then you want to choose a page size that will suit your printing options. Again, if you are producing your document just to store, then you want to store it in a way that will look good to the eye when anybody wants to read. So we're going to move on and we'll begin with formatting our page. In order to format your page rightly, remember that you can format before you start typing. You can also format while you are working on the document, and you can as well format when you finish working on the document. However, it is better to take these into consideration before you start working on your document. However, this we have produced already. Let's go ahead and see how to format our page. To format your page, you need to take your mouse pointer. Take your mouse pointer to the layout tab. Remember that these are tabs that we are seeing on our ribbon here. These tabs begins with the home tab, the Insert tab, the Design tab, and the Layout tab. We're going to click on the Layout tab. On your Layout tab, go ahead and select the size, the page size. Click on this page, this size that is found in the page setup group. In your page setup group, click on size. When you click on size, you're going to see different page sizes. Go ahead and select a page size that will suit you. In my case, I'm going to select an A4 paper size. A4 because I'm preparing this document to print and give it out to students as a tutorial material. So I'll have to print it out on A4 sheets of papers. Go ahead and select A4 yourself. Now, when I select A4, look at what happens. You realize that there is a complete change in the layout of my document. This means that the paper size I did not know. We went ahead and we just created our document without selecting the paper size. It is very important to always know the paper size that you are using before you start working. The next thing that we'll need to check out for will be the orientation of our paper. We have selected our paper size already, and this is what we call the A4 sheet of paper. Now, the orientation, when you look at this is in the portrait orientation, whereas this would be a landscape orientation. We want to select portrait orientation such that we should be able to read our text like this. Now, I'm going to go to, still on the Layout tab, in the page setup group, I'm going to take orientation. Orientation will permit me to give my page either a portrait orientation or a landscape orientation. Go ahead and click on orientation. When you click on orientation, a pull-down menu will permit you to select between portrait and landscape. Currently, it is landscape that is selected. We want to select portrait. Keep an eye on how your document shape or the layout. Keep an eye on how the layout of your document will change. I'll click on portrait. When I click on portrait, you realize that the layout of my document changes. This is already looking so good already, and we already have set our page size. We have also set the layout orientation of our page to portrait. Now let's go ahead and set our margins. When you look at this, you realize that the margins are not good. I hope that you remember what margins are. In primary school, we are told and reminded often to draw our margins. Our margins refer to the area to the left, to the top, to the bottom, and to the right of our paper that text will not enter. When you look at my working paper here, you realize that this paper contains already text that goes right to the edge. That is not good, and that is not a proper way to write on a sheet of paper. Let's go ahead and set our margins. Still on the page layout tab, go to the page setup group. In the page setup group, you're going to select margins. Click on margins. When you click on margins, you have some preset margins that are there for you. You have the narrow margin, the moderate margin, the wide margin, mirrored margin, Office 2003 default margin. We are not going to choose any of these because I would like to set my margins to be fixed. And you can go ahead and select any of them. If I select the narrow margin, you look at how the layout of my document now appears. I can go ahead and now select another margin type, the normal margin. When I select the normal margin, you see how it looks like. I'm not going to select any of these ones. You can test using any of them. I can even try moderate. When I try moderate, you see how it looks. I don't want to use any of these because I want to define my margin such that I have control over the units that are used to define my margin. I'm going now to select custom margin. Custom margin is found on the layout tab in the page setup group on the margins tools. When you click on the margin tool, you have the custom margins that is right down. I'm going to click on custom margin. When I click on custom margin, I'll wait for a while. A dialog box will open. This dialog box will permit me to set my margins. Remember that the units of my margin are supposed to be in centimeters. So I'm going to give my top margin at 2 centimeters or 2.0 centimeters. My bottom margin 2.0 centimeters as well, such that my bottom and my top margin should be the same. Then my left margin, I will set my left margin to 2.5 centimeters because on my left, I want to compensate for maybe any filing purposes. I may want to staple it, or maybe the students will have to spiral bind or put them somewhere. So I'll have to compensate for that in the left margin. Then to the right, on the right margin, I'm going to put 2.0 centimeters as well. Now the rest of the features on this dialog box, I will not touch anything there. I'm only interested in setting my top, bottom, left and right margins. That's all I'm interested for here. And when that is done, I'm going to hit OK. OK is found to the bottom right of my dialog box that appeared. Let's go ahead and hit OK. When you hit OK, your margin is now set, and you can now already start seeing that your shape, the layout of your document is looking good already. And this we can say has been done already. You look to the left, you realize that there is a space to the left where there is no text. That is your left margin. You look to the top, there is a space on top where there is no text. That is your top margin. And then there is a space to the right where there is no text. That is your right margin. Let's go on to format our text. Remember that for you to format a text, you need to highlight. Highlighting means we need to highlight in order to tell our word processor which portion of our text we desire to format. In formatting our page, we did not highlight. We did not highlight because we were formatting a page, the page that we are seeing. In subsequent lessons, I'm going to show you how you can format different pages in the same document. But for now, when you format, it will apply to all the pages in your document. However, the document we are formatting is having just one page. For you to format text, you need to highlight. Highlighting means you need to select the text. You need to tell word processor which text you desire to format. That is why we need to highlight. We have seen highlighting techniques. We spoke about highlighting techniques when editing our documents. And I gave you 3 highlighting techniques. The click and drag method. Now you click with your mouse and then you hold down the left mouse button. Then you drag to the desired direction in order to highlight. I spoke about double clicking and triple click. When you double click using your left mouse button, it highlights the word on which you double click. And when you triple click, it highlights the entire paragraph. Then the last highlighting technique which we spoke about was using our shift key on the keyboard and the arrow keys on the keyboard. When you press and hold the shift key, then you can now use your arrow key to the desired direction to highlight text as you desire. In this case, we are going to, first of all, look at our document. It's not structured. They are not paragraphs. We don't have paragraphs there. We need to arrange our documents in order to have paragraphs. And for us to do this, we need to read through our document. So we are going to read through our document together and see where we need to do what. And we will be doing it all along. Just follow along as I do it. We're going to read together Introduction to Windows. You realize that Introduction to Windows, the next word is also Windows. First of all, look at the size of your text. We need to increase the size of this text. We call it font size because it is too small. We cannot read well. I'm having difficulties to read. I need to arrange my size, the size of my text. I will have to highlight entirely everything. And since it is all written in the block paragraph or in one paragraph, I'm going to click 3 times. And when I click 3 times, it selects the entire paragraph. That is a technique worth practicing. You click 3 times and it selects the whole paragraph. When you click 3 times, it's going to select the entire paragraph. It's a technique worth practicing. Then, when we highlight all, we're going to now change our font size. To change the font size, go to the Home tab. On the Home tab in the Font group, you're going to see the font size option. In your font size option, we're going to use font size 12. Enter 12 there and click on enter. Alternatively, you can use this little drop down, this little arrow here, and you click on it. When you click on it, you can select the various font sizes. You'll see how the size is changing as I move from one font size to another. That is how it changes, and it permits you to change the size of the fonts in your document. I'll go ahead and select 12. When I select 12, I realize that I also need to change the type. We call it the character type, or you call it the font type. I'll go ahead and just beside on the Home tab in the Fonts group, go and locate the font types option. In the font types option, click on this little arrow. When you click on this little arrow, you see the various font types that are available. Experiment with it, move with your mouse over the various font type, and you can use this scroll bar to scroll up and down. You can change to anyone that you like, depending on what you desire. However, the font type that is recommended is Times New Roman. Times New Roman is a general font type that is used in most administrative documents. So we're going to go ahead and use font type Times New Roman. I'll click on Times New Roman. When I click on Times New Roman, notice that my font size, my font type now changes from Calibri up here to Times New Roman. My font size, it changes from 9 to 12 now. That is already looking quite good. And now I can comfortably read. And again, I'm still having difficulties. I need to enlarge my view screen. Enlarging my view screen means that I have to zoom my screen such that I can see well. Remember that there is a difference between your view screen and the size of your document. I'm going to go below to the bottom of my screen, bottom left or bottom right of my screen. On the bottom right of my screen, I'll have the plus sign to zoom and the minus sign to zoom. I want to zoom in. So I'll click on the plus sign. When I click the plus sign, it zooms. When it zooms, I can now use the screw bar to the right to screw up and down. That looks good already, and I can already read this without difficulties. Now I'm going to go ahead and now read through my document. I have Introduction to Windows. Introduction to Windows is supposed to be a heading, because when you look at, you have Introduction to Windows, and the next word is Windows are rectangular areas on the screen which forms a communication concept between the user and his task. So we're going to drop down. Let me bring up the keyboard so you can see what we are doing quite well. So here I need to make Introduction to Windows a heading. And since Introduction to Windows is supposed to be made a heading and it is on the same line with the subsequent paragraph, I'm going to put my cursor after Windows and click on Enter. When I press on Enter on my keyboard, it drops the next word to the next line, and that forms a new paragraph. So Introduction to Windows can now be my heading. I'm going to highlight this by using the click and drag technique, and I'm going to click after Windows and drag to the left. That highlights Introduction to Windows. Now look at that. Introduction to Windows is a heading. I want to make it look like a heading by making it bold, making it all in capital letters, and putting it in the center. Just watch on and see how I'm going to pull this off. First things first, I will need to make this bold. I'll go to the Home tab in the Fonts group. I'll click on this little B tool here. This little B tool is going to make my document, it's going to make the selected or the highlighted text bold. When I click on it, it makes it bold. I now have to change it to capital letters. I'm not going to type again. I'm going to use this other tool here. This change case tool would permit me to change my case from lowercase to uppercase. I'm going to click on it. When I click on it, capital letters is known as uppercase. I'm going to select uppercase. When I click on uppercase, you see that it changes to uppercase letters. And now I'm going to send it to the center. This is a paragraph, and I want to align this paragraph to the center. Still on the Home tab in the paragraph group, you have these alignment settings. We have the left align, center align, right align, and the justified align. We are going to select the center align. The center align will take my heading to the center. Avoid falling into the temptation of pushing using your space bar to the center. When you push using your space bar to the center, it's not a good formatting technique. So we're going to use our center align tool to send it to the center. When I click on the center align tool, it sends it to the center. When you look at that, it's already coming together. But again, I have another problem. My problem is that the subsequent paragraph is too close to the heading. Why is it too close to the heading? That we need to address. And how we're going to address that, we're going to highlight the entire text. We'll highlight the entire text, and when the entire document is highlighted, we can now define our line spacing. The texts are too choked up together, and when it is like that, we are not able to read. So what do? We need to set a line spacing. Our line spacing, we can choose any line spacing option that we like. Let's go ahead and choose our line spacing. Our line spacing is found on the Home tab in the paragraph group. When you go to the Home tab in the paragraph group, you'll see this line spacing tool. On the line spacing tool, we're going to click. When I click on the line spacing tool, I'm going to take 1.5 line spacing. When I take 1.5 line spacing, notice that at least my text is already spaced out now. I can use the screw bar to the right to screw up and see. When I look at it, I see that my text is spaced out and it's quite good. It's looking good already, and I can continue working on my document already. Now, the first paragraph begins with Windows. Windows is the beginning, the first word, the first letter there is not in capital letters. We need to make Windows the first letter of Windows capital because it is the beginning of a paragraph. What are we going to do? We're going to highlight Windows by double-clicking. When you double-click on Windows, you go to the Change Case tool found on the Home tab in the Fonts group. Click on the Change Case tool. When you click on the Change Case tool, you will locate Capitalize Each Word and click on it. When you click on Capitalize Each Word, it's going to make Windows, the first letter of Windows capital. When that is done, we can now read through and see if our document is already gaining shape. Windows are rectangular areas on the screen which forms a communication concept between the user and his task. The desktop is like a parent Windows to all other Windows. Another major feature of Windows is the ability for multiple windows to be opened simultaneously, where only one window can be active at a given time with the others running in the background. Now notice that another also requires for us to put a capital letter at the beginning. I'll do the same thing. I'll repeat the same process that I've done there. But now, look at the right edge of my document. Look at this. We have a dancing right end here. But look at the left end. The left end is straight, isn't it? When I click here, you see it follows a straight line. It is found on a straight line. But go to the right. The right is not on a straight line. It means there is a problem. We need to arrange something there. How are we going to arrange that? We need to highlight all the entire text and then we justify. Justifying will form a straight line to the left and a straight line to the right. We'll click on justify and that is done. And that is all right. You see, it looks good already and it's gaining shape quite already. As we continue, take note of these little toes here. Look at your screen on the roller. On the roller, we have this indent. We call it the first line indent. Your first line indent should always be on the same spot where your margin is. I can take this first line indent backward. Look at what happens to my windows. My windows now it doesn't look good, right? So this is where my margin is. My margin ends here. So my first line indent should always be where my margin is. Then we also have the hanging indent. My hanging indent and my left line indent. This is the hanging indent and this below is the left line indent. The left line indent should always be in the same spot where your margin is. If you make an error and your left line indent is somewhere else and your margin somewhere else, then you're not going to have a good document. So at all moments when you are working, please make sure that you check these tools up here. This up is known as the left line indent. This one down here is known as the hanging indent, and this below is known as the first indent. Now, I'm going to give you the details of all these indents in our subsequent lesson. But for now, let your indents be at the same spot with your margins. Do not tamper with those ones for now. The same thing with your right indent. Now we're going to go ahead and then read through and see where to put paragraphs. When you look at it, you realize our document is all in block. There are no paragraphs there. We need to arrange it so that it can contain paragraphs and even subheadings. In that way, it will be appealing to the eye and it will be easy for somebody to read and interpret. So let's go on and continue reading. We are taught in language that there are two types of paragraphing. You have the block paragraphing and the indented paragraphing. You can use any of them in writing in producing your documents in a word processor. In using indented paragraphing, it means that at the beginning of each paragraph, you need to give a space. This you will do by using the tab key on the keyboard. Using the tab key on your keyboard, you give an indented space there for paragraph. If I put my mouse cursor, if I highlight everything, I can now go ahead and define where I want my paragraphs to stop. This is where I want my first line tab to stop. So I can now go back and using my tab key on the keyboard, I'll define my paragraph. So wherever you have a paragraph, you're going to press the tab key on, put your mouse, the blinking cursor there, that is bringing the insertion point there, and then you press the tab key on your keyboard, and that will give a paragraph indent there. That is how you give indented paragraphs in your document. You will look at it now, you realize that we have our indentations, we have our indented paragraphs coming out clearly, and it shows us how this thing is being done. However, alternatively, We can use another type of paragraphing. I'm going to undo. Remember that we said the undo tool will permit you to reverse actions. So let's reverse all the indents that we use there to define our paragraphs. We can now use the other type of paragraphing, which is known as block paragraphing. In our block paragraphing, we need to add a line. We put a line after each paragraph. So I'm going to give a line here, just give a space. After each paragraph, we give a space. After each paragraph, you give a space. That way, you are going to know that you are dealing with block paragraphs. Now, that is already coming together and our document is gaining shape. Look at that. It looks good. It looks quite good, right? And it's beautiful. Now, these are basic tips in formatting. And just to briefly summarize what we have learned so far. And at the end of all of this, always remember to click on the Save option in your file menu. And remember that the Save option here will permit you to save changes, while the Save As option will permit you to change either the file name or you change the location of your file. All right, okay. If you look at your document, you see that our document gains shape already. This is after we have used just some very basic tips in formatting. When you are about to format your document, remember that there are two things that you are supposed to be formatting. You have your page formatting and the text formatting. In page formatting, you have to look out for the page size, the orientation, and your margins. Leave the rest to the default settings. Default settings are the settings that your word processor comes with. But kindly check to be sure that your page size is A4. Your page orientation is in portrait, except you want landscape orientation. You specify. And check also to ensure that your margins are well defined. Then we also have to check the text formatting. In formatting your text, you like to remember that in formatting your text, you need to keep your formatting consistent. You need to be consistent with your formatting. Being consistent in your formatting means that do not change your font sizes and font types and line spacing just anyhow. Don't use font size 12 maybe for a heading and font size 5 or font size 6 for the body, and maybe somewhere else you're already using font size 14, or another somewhere else you're using font size 30 and so on. No, keep your formatting consistent. When you have a consistent formatting, it minimizes distraction, because the essence of creating a document is to compass across information, and that should be done in the simplest way possible. You need to arrange your document such that it should be as simple as possible, but then should achieve the objective at the end. So keep your formatting, so be consistent with all your formatting techniques. If you are consistent with your formatting techniques, then the next thing that you want to look out for is to make sure that in formatting your text, you look out for the type, the font type. Look out for the font size. Look out for where to lay emphasis. We lay emphasis by using tools like the bold, italics, and underline tool. If you go to your font group, you're going to see the bold tool represented by the little b, the italicized tool represented by I, and the underline tool represented by U. These are things that you need to take note of. And you also need to address line spacings. And remember that for you to format any portion of your text, you need to highlight. When you highlight, you are telling the word processor the portion of your text that you desire to format. Then also consider checking your paragraph style that you are using. The paragraph style you are using is very important to check, whether you're using block paragraphing or indented paragraphing, and ensure that you are also consistent with the paragraph types that you are using. Don't use block paragraphing and after you're using indented paragraphing and after you're using block again. That would bring some confusion in your entire work. So ensure that you are using a style that you'll be consistent with. These are my tips, and I hope that you did learn something from it. Let us know in the comment section if you use other formatting tips that I've not mentioned here. These are tips that we use and is recommended for beginners. You're obviously going to have difficulties, however. The file that I've used in pulling up this lesson is found in the video description below. You can download so that you follow up with the file. Otherwise, you can experiment by using your own file that you have created. In case of difficulties, you can contact us.